He was 16 years old. He spent every minute he wasn't at school glued to the screen. He spent every day in front of a screen, playing games, watching videos, and endlessly scrolling. At first, it felt harmless, just a way to pass the time. But slowly, he started losing touch with everything around him. At first, it was simple. A few online games after homework. Perfectly normal for someone his age. Initially, it was something to be done only during the quiet hours of weekends. It was an activity to be undertaken when there were no other plans. He watched video after video, barely blinking, his eyes fixed on the screen as time slipped away. Endless scrolling, a never-ending stream of videos, one after another. It just kept going, pulling him deeper. His parents didn't think twice about it. Lots of boys his age spent time online, didn't they? It was just what kids did these days. They didn't notice the slow creep, how the screen started taking more time, more space, more attention. They didn't see that the harmless habit was already wrapping around him, pulling him away from everything else. They just nodded and let him be. Slowly, the world outside his door faded. His bedroom stayed shut, day after day. Homework piled up in his bag, forgotten. His mother called out to him, but he never heard. He was too focused on the game, his voice lost in his headset. His father knocked on the door, wanting to talk about the upcoming soccer tryouts, but he didn't even look up from his phone. He just kept scrolling. His friends texted him all weekend, asking him to come out. When he didn't reply, they went to his house and called up to his window. Their voices bounced off the siding, loud and bright, but he never looked away. He just texted, "I'm busy," and kept scrolling. Days turned into weeks. His grades slipped, his report card filled with missing assignments. He stopped going to soccer practice altogether. He rarely left his room, only sneaking out to grab something when no one was there. Dust slowly settled on everything but his screen. The cleats he'd saved up for sat in the corner, caked with old mud from the last game he'd played. He never touched them anymore. It wasn't his family or friends who pulled away. He disappeared first, lost in the blue glow of his screen. Soon, no one checked on him anymore. One afternoon, his mother walked past his open door without stopping. She didn't call his name, she just kept walking down the hall. She acted as if he wasn't even there. His father stood in the same hallway 10 minutes later, talking to his mother about weekend camping plans. He never turned toward the open door or called his son to join him. He just kept talking about gear and reservations, as if the space beyond the door were empty. Later that afternoon, his friends ran past the front gate on their way to the park. Their laughter carried up to the second floor, loud and bright. They didn't stop. They didn't even glance up toward his window. They just kept running, and their footsteps faded into the distance. He froze as his finger slid across the screen. For the first time in months, he noticed the silence beyond his headphones. He reached up and pulled them off. He tried to call out, but his voice came out weak. No one answered. The house fell silent, leaving only the hum of his computer. The screen still glowed brightly in his hands, feeding him the same endless stream of short clips he had been scrolling through for hours. Faces moved, texts flashed, laughter flickered on and off, but nothing landed. Nothing made him laugh. Nothing made him care. The whole thing felt hollow, like a shell with nothing inside. For the first time in months, he lifted his gaze all the way past the screen. The room felt different, quieter, empty in a way he hadn't noticed before. And for the first time, he realized he was alone. The only light came from the screen. His eyes drifted to the corner where his muddy cleats sat untouched for months. He'd saved 3 months of allowance to buy them. He'd never touched them after he stopped going to practice. The room was silent, too silent. The room was quiet. He heard his own breathing, slow and heavy, his shoulders stiff from hours at the desk. He paused, his fingers hovering over the power button at the base of the screen. Then he slowly pressed down. He took one wobbly step, then another. He crossed the dusty floor, opened the door, and whispered, "I'm here." The words carried down the stairs, soft but clear. His mother turned from wiping down the kitchen counter, her hand stilled on the cloth. His father looked up from the newspaper on the dining table. He folded it slowly, set it aside. They stood. They walked toward the stairs. It was a long-awaited smile. He stepped outside, onto the warm pavement, the air carrying the scent of fresh-cut grass. It was cooler than the stale air in his room, and it felt alive. His friends were playing soccer on the lawn across the street. One of them looked up and waved. They ran to him, calling his name and pulling him into a hug. They laughed and played until sunset. The world came back to life. He finally understood real life was outside all along.